this is the Business Data Lab knowledge sharing session. And let me start by talking just a bit about when we kick things off. I think most people in the room now know we started as an organization in the BDL. Gala had a big plan for Chamber 2025. And this is one pillar of many, from the Small Business Institute to Future Business Center and others. You can see the pictures of our team right here, and several of the members are sitting up here at the front. They'll be taking the stage after to get you involved. And the plan was really kind of twofold for our mission. The first was to try to enhance understanding of business conditions in Canada, in the Canadian market, focused on businesses here and local businesses and understanding their conditions. And then secondly, Patrick had this big idea of democratizing data, which we thought sounded good, sounded exciting, and was a stretch goal. And it's not all data, because there's lots of data, but it's business data focused on how do we get this in the hands of chambers and of small businesses so that they can use it themselves to make better business decisions. So that's why I'm here. And in the course of the last year and a half, we have created more than this, but these are 5 tools I'm going to show you. The Business Conditions Terminal, the Spending Tracker, a bunch of reports, and Patrick should be given credit for the CSBC. The Canadian Survey on Business Conditions was developed early in the pandemic in March and April of 2020. StatCan came to us and they were trying to figure out how they could tap into our network and understand what was happening through surveys and other methods to figure out which businesses were being impacted and how they could help. So StatCan is now running a quarterly survey of about 17,000 companies, and we are the beneficiaries of that and using that, including in this Survey Insights Generator, to help people understand business conditions in real time. And then finally, the Workplace Mobility Dashboard. So I'm going to talk about all of these, but the way that I wanted to do that was to have a bit of a pop quiz towards the end. So I'm going to just talk quickly, hopefully quickly enough for you guys, about what these things are. And then you'll be thinking, like, I'm a chamber or I'm a business and I want to do something. Which of these tools would I use to do that? Because I feel like one of the challenges we have with business data is technical. It's amassing the data, getting it, talking to our stakeholders, understanding what people need, and then doing the work. And then the last mile part is getting people to integrate that into their daily routines or their production processes or their policy manuals or their media. So that's where we're trying to go now is talk about the Canadian Survey of Business Conditions already. So this is a quarterly survey that's done. There's about 17,000 responses that we had from last quarter. StatCan runs this online, and there are about 35 questions. Some of these questions on the left-hand side, you see the recurrent themes. So those are questions which are asked every quarter, and so we can go back to early 2020 and trace how those have changed. So challenges are things like cost of doing business, labor markets, supply chains. Those are things that have come up and been high on the list of business challenges. Businesses are asked about their expectations. So what's going to happen to your sales, what's happening for investments or profitability or employment. And we can track that and match that up to what happens eventually when the data come out. And then the outlook. So for your business for the next 3 months, the next 12 months, how are you feeling? Optimistic, not optimistic? We can track those over time. And then on the rotating side, there are a bunch of questions that are brought in over time, often once a year, and we can compare back to a year earlier. So that would include things like Marwa's writing a paper now on women in management positions. So we're using some data from that. Strategies for workforce adjustments, managing supply chains. On the trade side, we have a lot of questions that deal with international trade, also interprovincial trade barriers. Tech adoption is a big thing, and environmental practices were in our last report as well. So the way that we use this survey is to try to take these insights and make them accessible and simple for people to use. So you can see the different ways that we're trying to reach out to chambers and businesses. On the left-hand side, this Survey Insights Generator. People can go to the website and they can change filters and look for provinces or territories. If you're looking for underrepresented businesses, we have a lot of data on that. And so you can get a lot of results there for the expectations, obstacles, and things I talked about, and see how those have changed over time. The CSBC, we also do a long PowerPoint deck, which I'm told at 40, 50 pages is useful to some people at the high level to see what's going on in the national economy, and people can look at their local level to see what's happening there as well. And we put things out on social media and infographics as well. So that's one way that we're using the survey. And Patrick has worked closely with some of the chambers that are sitting here in this room today, from Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, some of the major big city chambers, and others as well in the room. So one of the things we want to sort of convey to people today is that if you're seeing other chambers using our data in an effective and successful way, it's maybe not 100% that you could do the same thing, but you can probably copy most of what they're doing and directly do it. We scale the data pretty well. And so for most businesses in most areas, looking at what somebody else does, you can probably do it yourself. So these chambers have gotten media looking at the CSBC for their local regions and gone out there on a quarterly basis. It's a proactive media pitch. So that's one example of how we're using the CSBC. The business conditions terminal is probably the biggest net new that we've created at the BDO. This is a one-stop shop. It's an analytics platform for companies or businesses or anybody to go online. It's free, and you can monitor business conditions across a wide range of areas. What Andrew and I are working on right now is the assessments process and the ratings. So we figured the easiest way to convey this was to drill down in these dashboards and then come zoom back up after we look across all the indicators and rate things. So the workforce, as an example, from very challenging to very strong. We have a summary rating of that, and a text box there just kind of summarizes this is what the labor market's like in Canada. And we have the same type of analysis for a bunch of different dashboards. So here are the current ratings that we've just updated for October 2023, just updating our website right now with those. You see that there's 8 different individual dashboards that we have there. So we have workforce, we have sentiment outlook. I'm not going to read all these to you, but they're there. And the changes that we've made since last spring, the arrow in the rightmost column there shows you if things have gotten better or worse. So previously we had a rating of 3 for overall business conditions. That's been rated, moved down to 2. Workforce is the only area where we've actually seen some improvements. The labor market is not back to equilibrium and not back to normal, but it's gotten a little bit easier to hire workers over the last 6 months. Things have gotten worse for business dynamics, and international trade as well has been revised down relatively dramatically. So if you land on the page, I'm going to show you a couple kind of screen caps of this, and I think I have a video that may work, hopefully the mobility tracker, just to give you a sense of how you might use these tools. So the executive summary there lists these 8 different themed dashboards. Again, gives you some text in terms of what's happening. There's a key indicator chart there that shows you kind of what's been going on the last little while. Our ratings, you click and see more, and then you will jump over, in this example, is financial conditions. So in total in dashboard, I think we have 2,300 different indicators, and everything's updated daily in the morning. So you'll come back up there, you open it up, you should have the most up-to-date data that we've got. And you can move filters around by dates or by region or other things to get customized data that you want. Okay, so that is the Canadian Survey of Business Conditions, and the BCT, the Business Conditions Terminal. I'm going to talk about the local spending tracker, which is something that we just put out maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And this is looking at higher frequency payments and mobility data. And we're working with Environics. No, sorry, this one's Moneris. We're getting data from Moneris, which is a point of sales tap service, where if you're using your phone, if you're using your credit card, your debit card, or other things, we have information based on different regions in terms of how much money has been spent on a weekly basis. So this allows you to monitor overall spending conditions. As I just mentioned, using payments data, we have data for 35 different locations in Canada. And we do some internal adjustments to deal with seasonality because there's different seasonal factors, inflation because that's been pretty high, and we have a lot of differences in terms of population growth right now happening in different regions. So we look at local population and drill this down. What we see this is complementing data from StatCan, which is a little bit slower but a little bit more detailed. Ours will come out faster. We have weekly data as opposed to monthly data, and we offer data for cities that StatCan doesn't offer data for. So the chart there on the bottom shows you the top blue line is our local spending tracker. That's just looking at year-over-year growth rates of that. And then the official data from StatCan is the aqua, lighter blue line. And you can see that those two track each other quite well, except that the blue line is giving you more information because it's coming out sooner than the lower line. So that's the spending tracker. I was just updating data from the end of September as we're sitting here in the hotel. And I looked and noticed that this is actually a really interesting tool to look at local impacts of events. So we had fires and evacuations, unfortunately, in Yellowknife. And when we look through our data in Yellowknife's economy for September, you can see very clearly that in the first week of September, spending overall in Yellowknife fell by over 54% on a year-over-year basis. And then you can see the return after evacuation notices were lifted, folks coming back in the local economy, and then spending coming back, but still being about 13% lower than it was at a year before basis. So that's just one example where if you're in a local community, you can see the impacts of these various adverse weather conditions or other things. And one of the questions I had in the last session was on the CPP investment session, where we were asked a question about what's happening in the overall economy with the fact that we have a lot more people. Population's growth is significant. Inflation's pretty significant. So when we look at our data and we just don't make any changes to it, that's the line on the top, the purple line. That's nominal year-over-year spending. You can see that's pretty clearly slowing down from April, and so the Bank of Canada has been raising interest rates. So the picture's not looking great on the nominal side of overall actual dollar value of spending. But then when you take into account the fact that inflation is higher, you go from purple to blue. And then if you go from the fact that we have more population growth, we actually see that spending on a per person basis has been negative for about the last 6 months or so. So that's the sort of story that we have now, where people are thinking we're not in a recession right now, but people are feeling like it's a recession, and that sort of goes to show that. Finally, let me talk about the Workplace Mobility Tracker, where this is something that we launched last November. We've had 2,500 different users on this platform since last November, and if all goes well, you will see some moving pictures. Okay, this is working. Pausing for dramatic effect, take a drink. Now, here we go. You're on the website. You want to try the Workplace Mobility Tracker, so you click on this, jump in, we scroll down. There's our data partners, Environics Analytics, which we're showing there. So when I did this presentation, we were in Toronto. So we were going to say, okay, which province am I in? I'm going to click Ontario. We're going to go to city, and then we're going to pick Toronto for the city. Of course, you've got lots of different options there. Toronto comes up, and then I'm looking in the 905 region. So what's happening right downtown Toronto, what's happening in Markham, what's happening in Richmond Hill. You can see this is the return to office trends that we benchmarked back to pre-pandemic times. You click on Toronto, that gives you a time series. So you can now compare to Canada, compare to Toronto. Oh, things are a little bit worse in Toronto downtown. How does Toronto compare to Montreal? Oh, actually Montreal is a good news story. Montreal is one of the cities that have come back faster in terms of the return to downtown. And then we have demographic data that we're using, employment shares. You can easily click and compare your city to another city. We have data for 55 different downtowns and about 153 different CMAs. So that is the workplace mobility trends. And you can visit the website right there for that. Let me talk about use cases very quickly. If you're a local chamber, let's say you want to enhance your value prop, you want to boost your share of voice. I've mentioned a few things that you can do. There's the fact sheet side. So if you want to update your website, have stakeholder meetings, you want to use local data for that, we can create customized charts for presentations. The earned media side I showed for the CSBC, where people are putting data out for their local communities. And of course, supporting policy advocacy. So if you have a policy ask, it's always a lot better to have a number behind that, and people appreciate that. So these are stats that we can provide freely of charge. The small business, as an example, Patrick and I were talking about before, we hear a lot about retention, recruiting retention problems for the workforce. And so if a business wants to figure out how to take the data that we have and build a strategy around that, they can use our tools and figure out how to benchmark themselves against their peers. So looking by industry, you can look by firm size, if you're a small firm, a large firm, looking across region. And the benchmark compensation, how much are you paying your workers relative to other places? Is that competitive or not? Workplace flexibility and other things you can do. You could look at what are the top 3 business strategies that your peers are using in your area, in your region, or think forward looking from the questions we've got, and would it be easier or harder to retain workers in the next quarter or so? So we have been building this toolbox over the last year and a half. And I was reflecting upon this, and I think, our tools, we think that they're useful. We're proud of them. But they're only really useful if people use them, and if people use them in the right context to answer the right questions. So I was developing a cheat sheet, which is obviously not good for me to present in a forum like this, but I'm going to put this on our website, and it's going to walk you through on an item-by-item basis. Let's say I want to browse a variety of indicators for Canada's economy. And you're not a BDL person, you don't know what that means. You can look on this thing and realize we have coverage of these indicators. This is the benefit of using this versus something else. What can you customize? I did a little easy button. Some of them are easy. Everything I think is easy, but some of them are easier than others. The one easy button one is that you can get Excel spreadsheets from Patrick for up to 20 different CMAs in Canada, and then you can do all of your own customized results and calculations for that. And there's others that are really a lot of pointing and clicking. So now that was the fun and boring dry part. The exciting part now is going to be my team members who are going to take over and do the pop quiz. So Andrew?
Great, thanks so much, Steve. So my name's Andrew, and I'm joined with my colleague Marwa Abdu. So as Steve mentioned, we want this to be an interactive session. So given there's actually a lot of people in the room, maybe you can delegate one person per table to stand up if you're willing and able to, because we're going to want you to vote, because we know that over the past couple days you've been voting with your clickers. We thought today it would be good to vote with your feet. So if you're willing and able to, we'd really like you. Except
for Dan Rogers. Dan Rogers, you get an exemption from this.
So you'll see that we have A to D over here at this end, and then we've got E. If you're able to move to that table physically to vote, we'll try to get you a little bit of exercise in before tonight. So we really appreciate your participation. So Steve, next slide.
So this is on the prizes. Yeah, go ahead.
So as a practice, this is when we delegate one member and stand up.
Oh, we're seeing
okay,
action
thank
here.
you. We're seeing some participation. That's great. Thanks so much.
Woo!
So, Steve, if you could just show us what we're dealing with here as a practice. We've got a couple prizes here. We've got Air Canada. Keep going, Steve.
Woo! But you got to read that in total, because this is a really good one.
Well, this one, that's right.
Want this prize.
That's right. Okay, keep going, Steve. We've got Uber, free Uber, anywhere between 7 and 11 tonight. Next prize, $250,000 cash. D option is drink ticket to tonight's event. And then we've got E, a bag of candy. So can you please move to the letter that you think the answer is for this question? You got about 10 seconds. Go. Thank you. What is the prize for the winner of today's session? 5 more seconds.
Oh, everyone's moving towards one.
All right, we've got a lot around E. A lot around E, bag of candy. D, drink ticket to tonight. All right, the answer, Steve.
Your drum roll? Are you ready?
We've got a little bit around A.
Oh, wait, where's Matt? Where are you at?
All right, Steve, what's the answer?
Bag of candy.
A bag of candy. Congratulations, Marwa. We've got a huge bag of candy. Thank you to our sponsor, Suncor. We're going to be giving you some bags of candy. Thank you, everyone. All right, we'll get into the actual
that was questions. A hard question. That was hard, because I thought it was Air Canada.
Yeah, so remain standing. Stay mobile. Marwa's going to take it from here to the next question.
All right, so say you want to get a quick pulse check on market conditions in Canada and dig into key indicators by theme in one place. Where would you go?
How would you do that?
What are the options?
Would you go to the business conditions terminal? Or perhaps you would go to our local spending tracker? Or would you go to the CSBC report, the survey insights generator?
People are moving. People are moving.
Or workplace mobility dashboard.
Okay, we're seeing a lot of migration towards A.
I feel like you should follow the herd. If people are moving in a direction, they're probably know more than you.
There are some contrarian members here in the chamber network. That's good. We would like to see a little bit over here. That's good.
I like to see.
We need a countdown?
See the majority going to A. What's the correct
Steve.
answer, Steve?
The correct answer is, of course, the business conditions terminal.
Woo!
Great, congratulations. Thank you.
Woo!
A's the answer. All right, we'll do the next question. We've got a couple here. So I want to find up-to-date consumer spending trends in my area before Statistics Canada releases official data. Which product would I use? A, business conditions terminal, B, local spending tracker, C, our CSBC reports, D, survey insights generator, or E, workplace mobility tracker. We're seeing a lot of migration towards B. Steve,
people are catching on to this.
Is that the answer?
This is going really well.
I think people want to speed up the session. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. All right. What's the answer? There we go. B.
Local spending tracker. I mean, that one had spending in the words, so I figured that one.
And the descriptions help as well if people are catching on. All right. Go ahead, Marwa.
Next question.
All right. say for instance, you want to read an in-depth analysis of business conditions in Canada, including obstacles, expectations, and views on emerging issues. Where would you go? The Business Conditions Terminal, the Local Spending Tracker, the CSBC reports, the Survey Insights Generator, or the Workplace Mobility Dashboard.
Everybody
I
in there
see
getting
a
their steps
lot
in?
of people
We're getting a lot of steps in today. That's very good.
around C.
Are you ready for the big reveal?
I
There
can't
you
wait.
go.
I'm
Yes,
so
of course.
excited.
It's C, everybody.
Of course.
Congratulations.
Woo!
Next question, Steve. So I want to quickly generate customized provincial territorial charts by industry, firm size, ownership, rural, etc., and maybe download data to create my own outputs or products. They're getting a little more difficult, aren't
This
they?
one's harder, I think.
So would I do that in A, B, C, D, or E? Please go ahead.
See a lot of movements
A lot of
towards
more
D.
hesitation on this
I
one.
feel like there's a pattern to these answers.
More hesitation.
Yeah, I feel like you did these in a particular.
Bring the. All right, Steve, what's the answer? It's D.
Woohoo!
All right, good job. All right,
Awesome.
Last one.
last one.
All right. Say, for instance, you wanted to generate local, so provincial, territorial, or CMA level or downtown level stats on demographics, employment shares, return to office trends. Where would you go? A, B, C, D, or E?
Just a reminder,
Oh,
E is a
this
little
is-
bit removed here. Yeah, it's
This
kind of
is
back there.
this is getting a little tricky.
Do we have enough candy? Are we gonna
Yeah.
run out of candy?
Yeah,
We've got
we
candy,
do.
yeah.
I think everybody deserves some candy.
We
All
have
right,
a lot
that
of
one
candy.
is
E. So, congratulations. All right.
Woo!
Thanks so much for your
Good
participation.
job.
You can take a seat now. We would really welcome your feedback. As always, we're looking to improve our products and services at the BDL. So if you have access to, if you can take out your cell phone, if you can go on your laptop, if you have it, and go to slido.com. It's a very easy hashtag, BDL. We're just going to go through a couple questions, have you answer some of those questions. We're almost done with the presentation to have the closing remarks.
Of course,
moving on.
BDL stands for the Business Data Lab.
That's right.
Thanks for pointing that out, Myra. That's helpful.
So we'll just give you a couple seconds to pull out your phone, go to slido.com.
Is anybody
you.
on Slido.com? Put your hand up if you've actually successfully navigated to our.
Is anyone on
website.
Slido.com? Some hands?
Matt's
Okay,
checking
all right,
his
good.
emails. No,
Excellent.
nothing.
Oh, big thumbs up in the corner. That's good. Appreciate it. Okay, let's
Couple
move
people.
on. Let's go to the first question here. Just a little bit of a pulse check on some of the products, some of the usage on some of the products. If we could have you vote. Okay, a lot on the
reports.
survey,
Reports are doing
spending tracker, some of the commentaries. Thank you. I put a lot of effort into those recently. A lot of economic data coming out. It's great. It's actually going off the screen. This is unbelievable.
There's just too many
Okay, we
products.
see a little bit of 50%. Okay, great. We'll give you a couple more seconds.
Go now.
Is everyone almost done?
I feel like that's good.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
Okay, next question. How satisfied are you with the Business Data Lab?
Nice answers only, or truthful answers? Is this a circle of trust exercise, Myra?
I think so. I hope so.
All right.
So I don't see any votes, but
There's no, yeah.
hopefully it'll catch on. Okay, next question, please.
And just the last one is, of course, again, as in our effort to continuously improve, we just want to have an opportunity for you just to submit some comments on things that we're doing well or things that we can do better. So if you could just submit that into the Slido there, take this opportunity to give us some feedback. And then as always, you can feel free to reach out to us directly and we can collect that information. So we'll leave that open for just a couple more seconds here, and we'll continue on
People are
with
typing.
Mr.
I feel
Gill.
like people are typing right now. It's going
Yep.
well. Thanks, everybody. We
Thank
appreciate
you
your
so
feedback.
much.
Okay. Now it's Patrick's time to talk. You want my mic? You can use my mic.
Thanks. So I'm going to be closing things off by giving you a look at what's ahead. And again, really appreciate the opportunity to connect with everyone today. So much has been accomplished already, just recognizing that the Business Data Lab team has been working together with you, the network, for just a year and a half. And so when we look ahead on our mission to democratize data, so that essentially what that means, so that anyone can gain more insight, is we're looking to unlock even more data that's hard to find or difficult to get. We're looking to visualize that information in easy ways to, again, help any individual sort of grasp an insight that's useful to them. And we want users to be able to further understand the data that's in tables or within visualizations by kicking the tires to see what's possible with generative AI. And so there's a lot of projects that the team is working on right now to build better tools to unlock further data. And we want to, forums like this, really great opportunity to hear what you need, what's missing that you require, what are your priorities, what are the use cases that are most relevant to you and your members. But let me just show you one thing that we're working on right now with StatCan that we'd love to get your feedback on. So essentially what you're looking at here is, by leveraging hard to get data from the business registrar, from tax data, from employer payroll data, we're trying to see if we can map businesses and business impact at a neighborhood level. Taking a look for any sector of the economy, anywhere in the country, where are businesses located for industry? What is their impact from a job creation perspective? And then doing what we've been experimenting with is connecting that data, to other high frequency data sets, to explore stories of not just knowing where businesses and their impact, but using this information to explore the talent pools within that area or into those specific sectors. All right, forgive me, my colleagues put my picture up here as a joke, but this is me thinking about how we can help you better. And so at the end of the day, from this presentation, I encourage you to use what's available, to explore what's available. And if you still have questions about how can I really tap into the Business Data Lab's capability to support what I'm doing from a media perspective, an advocacy perspective, a program perspective, even strat planning, just send me an email. That's me looking at my computer right now for your emails. So reach out. And we really do appreciate connecting with you, not just at the AGM, not just on the quarterly network calls or the events that you ask us to attend throughout Canada, but we really do appreciate your feedback and support. And so when we look to what's possible next year or the years ahead, we reach out to you now, and we would appreciate your support and help us to convey the importance of our mission to democratize data to the government of Canada. Within the last week, you will have received maybe 1 or 2 emails in your inbox from the Canadian Chamber, just simply asking if you could support the Business Data Lab by indicating your support, just signing on to a letter to convey to Minister Valdez the importance of democratizing data for the Chamber Network and the members that we represent. So with that, happy to take any questions that you have. I hope you've found this informative, and we look forward to working with you in the days ahead.
Are there any burning questions? This is going to be a hard question? Good.
Maybe not. Lisa Dressler with the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce. I think the BDL is a great tool. A little bit more difficult to use in smaller census areas. So I'm just wondering if there's any plans on the roadmap to include other census areas in that data.
Yeah, so I was just visiting my friends in Sault Ste. Marie 2 weeks ago, and occurred to me that some of the data that we have at the CMA level, so let's say if your city has more than 100,000 people, you're pretty well served by traditional data. And then when we go below that threshold, there are some things that you'll see up here which don't apply in the region that you have. So the spending tracker was one where I think Dan was talking to me last night. I have data for Vancouver and Victoria and for BC, but I don't have data for Kelowna as an example. The reason for that is because that data is just really expensive. So we can work in some of those cases if people want to go for things, that people have budgets and they're interested, we can do that. But the area I see for more potential now is on the mobility tracker that I showed you. That has 153 different areas that we have, and we actually have more data in our own data vaults than we're showing on our website. So I think our next push is going to be to add more local level data on that, which will have demographic data as well as employment data for different regions, and we think that that will be a move forward. But definitely, if you don't find something, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and that's why you need to email Patrick to see, because I think in some cases people just assume it's not there. In some cases it's there, and it's just in the vaults at the back. We got to have a look for it. So, yeah. Next question. Sure.
Hi there, Mike Shishka from the Red Deer District Chamber of Commerce. You mentioned generative AI really briefly in your presentation. Just wondering if that's something aspirational, or is there any efforts right now to use AI to make accessing this data or layering the data together a little bit easier for people? And maybe second part to that is if there's ever been any consideration about making the data available through an API.
These are good questions. We are using AI internally, essentially for summarizing documents to work towards our data commentaries as Copilot to work on code in Python or R with our data scientists. We are not at a point yet, at least based on what I've seen, that we would put some of these things out in the wild. There are some things you've seen through ChatGPT where you can say, let's say, describe a chart in 500 words, and then it will go through and be useful. In other cases, it will not give you useful information and will actually mislead you or show you things that are not on the data. So we are experimenting, and we're thinking about useful applications of those tools. But I think that those are probably more, in terms of what you'll see on the website, more 2024 type questions. And on the API, this is the second person who's asked about that, and I think I'll talk to my data science team and we'll figure out if that's possible.
That would be awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Rakesh Naidu, Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm just wondering if we can be a bit more coordinated here. Many chambers, like my chamber, we do our local business confidence survey, and there are many different factors we collect. And then there's a survey that comes out from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, which we also participate in. And now I understand that there's another survey that you do that becomes the basis of you collecting the information. I'm just wondering, is there a way in which we can do it in such a way that we are not repeating the service, but at the same time collect all the valuable information that each one of us is seeking?
That's a good question. So I'm aware that there are different types of business surveys that are conducted by different chambers throughout the economy. The Atlantic Insights, there was a Mindreader version as well happening in BC. There's a bunch of different people doing different things. Personally, I don't view them as competing. They're in the same space in general, but in some cases you're going to use those tools to, let's say, ask on policy questions. So the CEBA is an example where I think I've seen people to some effect ask local businesses if CEBA is a problem for them. Those are not the types of questions that, through the data design that we work with StatCan, that will normally be included in those types of surveys. So I think that there are different tools for different pieces. We see this as putting something out there which is, if you like it, if it's good, if it's a relevant data point for your area, use it. And if you have other sources, feel free to use those as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I by no means meant that it is competing. It's just, if we can streamline it that way, there is no survey fatigue, because if there's multiple surveys going out to the same business, and sometimes, the response rate goes down significantly.
Yes, no, it's definitely the case. We've seen response rates fall after the pandemic and other things. That's the one benefit I see, actually, the Canadian Survey of Business Conditions. Getting 17,000 responses. When it comes from StatCan, people think that they will go to jail if they don't fill it out. So the response rates are like 50% versus a normal survey where it's 2 to 3, 4%. So I think that's just one of the benefits, is to be able to cut the data in different ways and slice it. But you're definitely right on survey fatigue. And so we're cognizant of that. A lot of the other tools that we're using, from payments data, mobility data, there's no need for people to necessarily, respond to questions directly. We can use other means to figure out things.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rory, we're at 0 seconds here, Rory.
Thanks very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it.
I had a lot of fun.
I wonder if there's an ability for border communities to measure leakage, whether it's on retail or even eventually, in a larger extent, trade leakage, plus minus, looking at bridge traffic, type of traffic.
Thank you, Rory, for that question. And I will think about it and give you a more thoughtful response after the session, because I'm over time. I think our next step, am I turning this over to Perrin? I believe so. Okay, well, thanks everybody. Appreciate your interest and your support for the work that we're doing.